think I would like to send you my data set. I'll send you after class. If you could look at it, or just like my project in general, because I feel like I kind of did it, but I'd like to get some feedback and like what if any.
Notebook ain't clean data.
Okay.
We're all for Right.
Okay, we're back in the world we do in the real world that is as dry as possible. You guys remember business applications of computers 1950s. We have been working on governance for information systems ever since then. So we're 70 years into it, and we're pretty good at organizational computing and end-user computing. We've got all kind of governance and policies, and you can't do this, you can't do that. So that's great. We're okay on conventional AI. We've had that for 20 or 30 years, and we're pretty good on that because we basically kept the users mostly out of it. Well, then generative showed up in 2022, and that blew all our governance out of the water. So we're going to go over this, basically what organizations are trying to do. Now, I have no idea what all you guys are doing out there in TV land, but if this, if there's anything here that you're doing that's unique, let me know. You've got all kind of challenges with generative AI. It's a totally new ball game. We're 3 years into it. You guys know the outputs are unpredictable for the simple reason of hallucinations. What's bad though is you can get hallucinations, but suppose you don't get a hallucination, but you use the same prompt on 2 different models and you get different answers. Well, that falls to the user, and we talked a lot about conventional AI governance, and we have governance structures set up for that, but this is the wild, wild west. We're all over copyright infringement now. We discussed this, the lawsuits are live and going on, and we can definitely have problems with security and data leakage because Lord knows what your users are going to enter into the prompt. As the models get more sophisticated, the prompts get larger. Okay? It used to be keep them brief. Now it's provide context, which means data, planning, all kind of stuff. Videos, pictures, images. Basically for whoever the governance group is on conventional AI, I don't know if they've just gone ahead and tried to assume generative AI. You may need a separate group for this. Somebody's got to be up on this stuff. Ethical harm, naturally, if any of these screw up, then you're off into lawsuit land again because you get hate language, toxic language. We've had this time after time. Traceability is really subtle because you don't know. First of all, those big models are black boxes. So you can't get a grip on them, really. And also, then you sit there and you go, well, I'm using the black box ChatGPT or Anthropic or just any sort of thing, any one of those models, Meta, Gemini, Claude, so forth. You don't know where they're getting their data. And that goes back to copyright, but it also, you can't trace your results back to data that you use going in there. So that's a problem. We're going to go into agents next when we get through with governance. I'll just tell you all frankly, agents are a nightmare. Okay, it's the latest thing out in generative AI. We've been using agents forever, but now that we threw generative AI on it, it's totally different. Here's the problem. User-led adoption. This is what I'm talking about with the Wild Wild West. As we talked about in here the whole semester, employees do not have to worry about AI, IT controls. They just use their own machine. That's called shadow generative, and it is a problem. Let me give you a good example. I had a student in a summer class, and I got an email from her in August. We'd just gone through prompting, and she said that she had used on a company box a couple of prompts, and it saved her team a bunch of hours and her managers all excited. And she had not done anything wrong, nothing defamatory, no corporate data or anything, just something to get her team through a problem. I think it was an ideation problem, brainstorming. And she said saved, thousands of dollars and that sort of thing. But she was cautioned to be careful going forward type thing. So she did all this on her own. And she deliberately used her company computer. So I thought that was pretty smart. Okay, here's your risk classification. Low risk, ideation, brainstorming, summarizing public documents that have been published. Medium risk, internal report drafting, because it all depends on exactly what you're doing. If you're customer facing, anything legal and medical financial is very high risk. But I'm astounded people will do that. I'll do that in a second. So here are the controls. You've got to figure out, now some companies have internal large language models, and they're also using small language models, which we'll get to in a minute. And so, but this is internal inside the company versus external. I would imagine that this is expensive to develop these models if you get around, a billion parameters. So I guess only giant companies could do this. I've not heard of this sort of thing. Approved tools list, specific large language models. Data leak controls, how? I'm on my computer at home and I'm just entering data left and right. So what this is? This is whistling in a graveyard. And we're right in the middle. We're right in the early days of it. So training data, it's great to know what data the model learned from. We will not know this, by the way, if it's one of these external models. Here's the interesting thing. Before a conventional AI model is trained, the organization does a lot of due diligence in their data pipelines, making sure it's legal, ethical, properly licensed. This is great, but it's critical to generative AI because you can't do that. And so if you ask OpenAI, where'd you get the data? They'll go, somewhere on the internet. And we all know everything on the internet is true and righteous. So good luck with this one. I'm giving you the stuff that's out there about people just desperately trying to put controls on this. The data is not collected with user consent, so you can't guarantee that. You can check this if you want, but you're busy web scraping the internet, the large language models are. It's wonderful as you can filter out personal or confidential data, personally identifiable information, trade secrets, so forth. Hence the lawsuits. Remember we talked about synthetic data to try to get past this. And then where the data came from, data lineage, we just don't know with these models. Conventional AI, yes. Generative AI, no. So that'll get you out of trouble if you can do that, but right now we're winging it. Remember, you have problems with the input, then you're going to get outputs out of these models once you prompt them. If you use those outputs and they are coming off copyrighted data and they're ever data lineage back to it, your outputs are that bottom line. So, prompt governance. I would have brought my violin in here this morning because we could probably have a tune over this. How are you going to control what your users are allowed to ask the bot? Go ahead, give it a go. We can't do it here. I think people are trying to put a framework into play. I don't see how you can do this. Again, depending on which computer you use. As we said, the input and the output can get you in simultaneous trouble. So there are examples where companies have gone in and they call it prompt engineering, which we'll do a couple days on prompt engineering. And they have prompt templates. if you're thinking and you use a template and you get your output out of that thing, you're thinking, well, there's several interesting points here. How fast are you off template? A minute? So blocking keywords, okay, that's all right. If you're on the company computer, and then of course stopping your employees from entering sensitive data as long as you're on the company computer, on the company network. Logs of prompts, auditing and accountability, you should all be doing that anyway. But as a company, I don't know. And remember, the input and the output are also risky, really risky. So we try to keep a human in the loop. I can understand customer facing. Notice this is that generative AI output. You don't want to put customers or the public without a human in the loop. Okay. Maybe you can hire some folks to handle this. And of course, all this kind of stuff, if it's customer facing and you get hallucinations, you got a problem on your hands. So, you know, a human editor approving customer emails drafted by generative AI. Okay, keep the human in the loop. Reviewed, if you're going to generate code, review before deployment. I think we're doing that with software development unless you're on your own. AI generated contract language, you got your legal people on that, okay, fine. Watermarking the outputs, that's, again, that's like trying to figure out AI content. And then storing outputs for auditing. This is a fine idea, again, if you're going to keep your prompt streams. And notice AI tools can be confidently wrong, no question about it. Companies are trying not to hire people. So you're going to have to hire people to do this human in the loop. And that seems to be contradictory to what we're seeing. Content filtering, again, if you're on the company computer, maybe you can block these inappropriate outputs and again, put filters in place. I have not seen that yet. These are ideas to try to handle the output governance. Hate speech, profanity, harassment, okay, toxicity filters. Hallucination, well, it just got through telling you that AI tools can be confidently wrong, so detecting a hallucination is really difficult, particularly if you're lazy or you're in a hurry. You can fact check algorithms, that's fine. Bias, okay, we're pretty good on that. Personally identifiable information, okay, if you've got the time and the money, and then scanning for copyright. Well, good luck with that, hence the lawsuits. Either those companies are going to agree to do it, or I guess we'll still be in court for a while. Here's a problem, user-led adoption, in other words, shadow, generative AI. IT's, when you talk about an unauthorized tool, that could be your own computer, as well as, well, say somebody wants to use Grok versus Claude or GPT. I would be aggravated if I were a company, so I'd have to try to limit that, but not if they're on their own computer. That's your biggest challenge. Okay, now let's face it, we don't have a grip on it. And that's it for governance. All that stuff we talked about are people writing, trying to figure out how we get a grip on this phenomenon. And you can do whatever you want to inside the company, but if your employees get under pressure and they're in a rush, and then they'll use their own computers, etc. So that's where we are. There are we talked about the restrictions that they're trying to put on there. The most important is to educate your employees. Well, you see what Accenture's doing. Either we're going to upskill you or you're fired. You know, pretty much a binary solution set. And this relies on employee compliance and goodwill. Now, you want to educate them. You want them to have compliance and goodwill, and you tell them, oh, by the way, if you don't do your job faster, you're fired. Oh, good. That's really consistent. And, you know, and you get these lunatic CEOs that are laying off tens of thousands of people. So this doesn't seem to come, I can't see anything logical about what we're doing here about users. Browser restrictions, please. Cultural incentive alignment, that goes back to policy and goodwill. And so essentially the bottom line is it's largely ungovernable. And I'm interested to see where all this goes because we're on, ChatGPT 5.1 now? And Sonnet's up to, are they at the 4 level yet, or are they still 4.5? And so those things are still growing and they're multimodal. So I don't see that we can govern that. Okay, I'm totally dystopian about governing generative AI. Our journals in business, our business journals now for academia, which are read by 6 or 8 people around the world, maybe 10. They're starting to put restrictions in there for what they call plagiarized content. Instead of saying generative AI content, they're calling it plagiarized content. And one of them came out the other day with 15%. That's the limit that they would go to. I don't think there's been an article published in the last 2.5 years that's under 60%. And it's not percent, it's 0.60, 60% probability that there's some AI generated content in there. And so you see where we're going with this. You're going to govern faculty? Herding cats, man, herding cats. By the way, out there in TV land, if you have some cool governance ideas that y'all are doing that you can talk about, shooting someone at dawn doesn't count, okay? So let me know, I'd be interested here. All right, AI agents. Well, everybody's trying to get into the AI agent business. A bunch of organizations have used them now. More than half are planning to use it by next year. This is great. Automation of workflows, of course. What am I trying to do here? An AI agent's multi-step. We're doing a business process and, you know, improve customer service satisfaction. Why do we always see this? This means a chatbot's doing more. The biggest use case right now is software development. I love it. Productivity improvements that are potential will outweigh the risks. Okay. I bet how fast the risks go up with a multi-step process. Go up astronomically. Okay, they operate independently. Read that autonomously, guys. Complete tasks, make decisions, take action to achieve goals without constant human oversight. So, an autonomous vehicle is a AI agent. And after class the other day, I got blistered by the young people who said they would not have autonomous cars or mobility as a service. So I did some checking for you, just the group over here. And everything I'm seeing out there, it could be wrong, says if you decide not to go with mobility as a service when it's available, and I mean widely, and I'm not talking about a robo-taxi in Atlanta, bring your checkbooks. Just remember this. Why? Because all your insurance is determined on risk. Okay, so these things, these AI agents, you give them the objectives and they autonomously determine the steps needed to accomplish. It could be nice and simple, and we'll talk about a few of them in a minute, but it also could be AI cars. Okay, now we've been around forever. You know, there are different types of agents. We've had conventional AI agents, you know, rule-based, predictive machine learning, robotics, of course. We've got large language model-based agents. We've got hybrid agents. Most modern enterprise systems that are trying to be automated are going to hybrid. So here are the early ones, nice, simple ones. The early robots, the industrial arms, the industrial control systems like a thermostat, rules-based expert systems, which we phased out, fortunately, playing system to game players, network monitoring, our electrical grid monitoring, et cetera, and then the early inventory scheduling agents. Pretty cool. They're all conventional. And they use rules, sensors, data, planning, optimization. Nice, pretty straightforward math and machine learning. Okay, that's conventional. Okay, Well, when you get to large language models, now we're off into natural language understanding and processing. They'll do planning. By the way, writing an email is an agent for a variety of reasons. Imagine trying to describe, you want to write this email, have the thing write an email for you, give it an objective, and the sender and the recipient, etc. Code generation we talked about, document analysis, okay, we're all right on that. Decide next actions, yeah, that'll all work. So there you go. Conventional agents do these things. They have limited flexibility. They're very structured. Okay, they're also readily understandable because they follow rules. Well, over here, generative agents are much more flexible, which means they're messier. Okay, they'll break down problems into steps, so will conventional. They integrate tools and they have memory across the agent, across the process. All right, this is good. Autonomy and goal orientation are the big differences. So this thing was nice and simple. If temperature goes, if you want it to be 68, when it hits 68, the air conditioner turns on. Okay, if it's 74, coming down on the air conditioning, when it gets to 68, it'll turn off. Pretty simple. Notice, generative AI creates content on demand, that's fine. Agentic AI takes actions to accomplish defined objectives. Okay, the thing does exactly what you'd expect it to. The system gathers input, processes it, selects the optimal action based on what? Well, it's a reasoning process, but when it says human feedback, that's how you train the agent. Human in the loop until the human's no longer needed. Then it carries out its chosen action. Notice, after taking the action, the agent assesses the outcomes. Okay, we're back to the virtuous cycle we talked about earlier. It adds new information in. For example, what if action was deleterious? What if it was not helpful? Well, then it'll factor that in for the next iteration. But refining its understanding, that's the difference. Okay. Well, we're looking for intelligence level, how they make decisions. We put those processes in there and how they interact with their environment. Here they are. Nice and simple. Simple reflex. Those are conventional, basically. Model-based reflex. A little bit more than the reflex simple. It'll react. It'll remember a couple of recent situations. Very limited memory. It's conventional. All right, goals-based. I want to get to a goal. Notice what you're having. Now, all of a sudden, I'm starting to span conventional, generative, and hybrid. Utility-based, I span them, and then learning. So as I come down, complexity is going up. Simple, model-based, goal-based, utility-based, and learning. Now, they are not distinct from each other. These two are. And these three, goal-based, utility-based, also incorporate learning. Now, simple, you respond right now. Okay, if then that logic, very straightforward. Notice I've got clear input-output relationships. Those things don't change for a simple reflex agent. If they do, you're up in model-based. Notice fraud detection, smart home devices, so-called, and automated email responders. Pretty cool. Those are your spam filters. Reflex agent with a model-based, I want to have a little bit of memory. So I want to keep a little bit of recent information to make an intelligent reaction. All right, inventory system. The agent remembers if an item was out of stock yesterday. If today's sales increase, it treats that situation differently because of stock being out yesterday. Customer service bots, they try not to get the bot where it asks you the account number again if it already has it. This strikes to chat bots, which of course are still not ready for prime time. Goals-based navigation, the navigation system in your cars, help desk bot that tries to resolve a customer complaint. I should have put an asterisk out beside this one. Good luck with that. Depends on the customer who's screaming for a human. But notice these agents will consider different actions. Choose someone leaning towards a goal. They can plan. So this is a good step, still simple enough to where it's not a disaster. Now, utility-based agents, notice, they're trying to maximize value. maximize satisfaction. That gets kind of interesting because it can classify agents and it can compare trade-offs, cost versus speed, risk versus reward. Shipping optimization, you guys know there are a whole lot of variables trying to get low cost fastest. Notice the fastest option, costs go up. Okay, the slower the option, the cost goes down, so there's a balance. Same thing with loan scoring. This is really ticklish right here. You guys can understand that's customer facing. And what do you want to get? You want to get highest expected return, and you don't want to get too many people suing you. Learning agents, well, they're going to improve their performance, data feedback and experience. They learn from success and failure. Just think robotics. Okay, this is what we're doing with robotics, reinforcement learning. We talked about a lot earlier. Demand forecasting, that's great. Recommendation system that we're all familiar with. Those are what we're doing with agents. Okay, got software development, process automation, workflow. Notice enhanced robotic process automation, end-to-end business processes throughout logistics chain, for example. Bridging organizational silos, that's a little bit tricky. But it takes all three types, conventional, hybrid, and generative. Customer service and support, you would figure. Content creation, yes, we're doing that. HR and employee support. That's a great idea. It really is, isn't it? It's a very squishy area. Definitely hybrid. Imagine processing vacation requests. I tell you another thing too is travel and entertainment expenses. I mean, that is just brutal to handle. And it does lead to a lot of arguments too. Naturally, business intelligence and analytics, pretty straightforward. Supply chain management, they're all over the place. Think fulfillment centers, manufacturing naturally. Cybersecurity, we have a lot of agents because of the speed of the threats. Okay, notice what happens. Employee requests vacation time. The agent can handle the whole situation. Now it's going to have to guide the employee into entering the details. And what's fascinating here is you get a lot of, unless you've designed the data entry system for the employee really well for this agent, it's going to blow up. We have that here. Complex documentation in the financial markets. Dun & Bradstreet wants to help customers interact with their databases. Well, that's well and good. The key here is the agent has to work on the data that it's entered into it. These agents are all working now. EY is using third-party risk management. Human analysts used to spend a whole week evaluating each vendor. Now they can do it in a matter of just, very quickly in minutes. But the thing is, you get this result, the risk report. Then the human experts enhance these reports by feeding them theoretically to the generative models, and the system evolves to provide continuous vendor monitoring if we can ever get there. Look at the problem here. The human's in the loop regardless. And so you get these detailed risk reports in minutes. Well, it used to be that you spent up to 50 hours evaluating each vendor. Okay, now I get a vendor risk report in minutes. You're there as a human, you move from here to here. I'm trying to figure out if you actually save any human time. I think if I were a human, I'd much rather be here than here, but you're still going to have to back check it. Supply chain agents, considering the weather here, trying to factor in prices and distribution and such, that's a busy type of, with a lot of variables type of problem. This particular utility company over in the UK, they want to meet regulatory requirements for vulnerable customers during outages. That's a good idea. They'll alert customers. check their needs, see their responses, and make sure they're getting these targets. When we have a power outage, we all get texts. Congratulations, your neighborhood's out again. We don't pay our electrical bills in my neighborhood, so we go out a lot. Claims processing, you guys are very, very familiar with this. This is very straightforward if you have a car accident. It is not straightforward with health insurance. Okay, everybody says when they put the AI agents into health insurance, what's their function? To automatically deny every claim. So if you ever talk to a physician, he or she will tell you that the biggest hassle in their lives is dealing with medical insurance, healthcare insurance. So the agents, doctors are screaming for their own agent. So their agent can talk to the insurance agent. And they don't have to hire somebody to do that. By the way, if any of you want to make $1 billion, do that. Customer onboarding, that's great. Invoice processing, a nice accounting function. Agents are handling all that. Klarna has a customer service agent, and they handle service chats every month, and it's built on generative AI. The Morgan Stanley, we talked about this briefly, their wealth management AI assistant, that's fine. It helps the advisors prepare for the client. The advisor talks to the client. So that's very helpful. By the way, only, I want to say half of their advisors use those portfolio reviews. Walmart store operations, that's great. Action lists and so forth to help run the store. Copilot has all kind of functions on it. What bothers me here, and you need to be very careful on this, when it says auto actions, that means it's going to send that email out over your signature. I would highly suggest you read it before you let that happen. And then the review response agent reads customer reviews. What's interesting here is if you look at the one-star reviews in Amazon, one of the biggest complaints on any product is, I had the product, I checked it out for 3 days, and they wouldn't let me send it back because I passed the limit. So the agent is sitting there putting the limit on there. And y'all are buying Jeff Bezos' new yacht. We all are. Okay, warehouse robotics, you guys are all there with Amazon, and the robots are conventional agents. Generative AI sits on top of it to look at these reports on how the fulfillment center is running. Orion with UPS, they've always used conventional AI, best in the business. You read the UPS case, so now they're piloting these assistants that read constraints on the routes, weather alerts, all this kind of stuff, and they generate all this kind of stuff for the drivers. And customer communications, which is pretty cool. When's your package going to show up? Coca-Cola doing a great job. They're targeting consumer segments, running their A/B experiments. Notice they're predicting conventional models. They're segmenting the customer base. Generative creates the ads for the segments, and the agentic runs the experiments based on these first two and selects the winners. That's well done. Index plus risk, that's a good idea. They really want to, they've already had risk forever with conventional, and now they want to check with the clients here, reading the documents and check the strategies. The idea here is to go personalized portfolio. Siemens is using industrial automation. Now Nokia, they've done an interesting thing here. They basically are trying to handle telecommunications networks. That's pure network performance. If you can do it for telecommunications networks, you can also do it for electrical networks. But right now they're using telecom, keeping the service quality up. Notice what it's doing. It's working off sensors, and it's doing actually a heck of a job because what it'll do, it'll scan all those sensors and it'll come down with how to redistribute network traffic. I'll tell you what, that's getting interesting because so many countries are now developing their own internets. Russia and China are off the global grid, and there's an idea now that we're going to end up with a splinter net instead of the internet. So the thing during peak usage, by the way, this is almost like follow the sun computing. Peak usage times vary, and so you can prioritize bandwidth, and you can easily put unused equipment in energy saving. This is great. Now, prediction of network failures, that's pretty interesting, especially when it's very hot or very cold with the weather-wise. And these things are checking that. And so it has to go across multiple communications providers too. That really helped. Notice this is all the conventional stuff that we had forever, the last 20 or 30 years. Generative, now you've got interactions for the engineers, root cause explanations, that's really cool as long as they can get to it. Remediation plans come out automatically. This is the rerouting of the bandwidth. Assistance for the operation centers, I think that'll be next. This steel company decided to put, at least this is ArcelorMittal, what they wanted to do is transform their equipment maintenance. So they got the sensors throughout the production lines. They're looking for equipment failures before they occur. Notice all the sensor data they're analyzing. What's interesting is sensors are getting a lot cheaper. So you can have them doing a whole lot more analysis than before. So then it schedule the maintenance. That gets to be interesting with the prediction, and they've reduced their downtime, and that agent runs 24/7. So when you think about this, they're not releasing how much money they saved, but it was a ton. This also applies, it doesn't matter, guys, on any kind of maintenance you do, you could easily apply this to the airlines for their plane maintenance. There's your conventional, all the data stuff, classical fault tree analytics, and then the technicians, natural language explanations for the technicians, the assistant for maintenance decision support. That's very helpful. Okay, so you're going to get a transformation of knowledge work with these agents, ostensibly, and there will be some new human roles created, no question, human in the loop. Notice, talk about a skills evolution there. You're going to need skills in prompt engineering, agent supervision, that's AI agent supervision, and defining appropriate task boundary. What's a task boundary? Keep your goals specific. Okay. Now, what it's not telling you is we're already automating a lot of stuff. If we're going to automate entire business processes, we're back to job displacement. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. All right, so what's coming up? Well, we've got organizational structures that are changing. We had the organizational chart that cranked up in 1850. That was about 100 years into the Industrial Revolution, and we had to start to get organized. And so we went to a hierarchical structure. We have multiple levels of managers, and they have a fairly narrow span of control. Even though we've increased our span of control, number of people that directly report to you, then we still have the hierarchical setup. Well, now we're looking at the very first organizations are trying to figure out how to structure around humans and AIs working together. There is some reimagination of the entire organizational structure. That is the latest thing. Now, I personally think this is going to be very, very, very slow coming on. There's a lot of people that are very accustomed to the hierarchical structure. As you know, the Gen Zs are having difficulty in the marketplace, especially if we start getting eliminating early entry-level jobs. So we're going to have to watch this, but there are different ways that you can work humans and AI. So here are the unique strengths that we keep. Thank goodness. Let's see. Critical thinking, novel situations. Okay, you've just come through an American university or any university in the world. How many of these strengths did we teach you guys? I told you I had a target on me too. You've just been through 120 hours to get your degrees as undergraduates. Now you've got another MBA level degree. I hope we've helped in some of these areas. You don't have to put your hands up or anything, but that's just a thought. Undergraduate, I'm not so sure about anything on that list, with the possible exception of some of you had team exercises.
We have to take in undergrad, there's an ethical and moral reasoning class, basically. But
Is that in the core?
Yeah, it's like your final busy class you have to take.
Oh, the BUSI stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Is that one day?
A week.
The whole course? A week?
One day a week.
One day a week. Yeah, but is it ethics for the whole course?
Pretty much. It's ethical leadership.
Interesting.
It's a bunch of case studies, and the final thing you have to write a paper, whatever about.
Should this person have gone to jail or that sort of thing? No, I'm glad. I'm really glad. I didn't realize, like, it's 1 hour class, right? That's good. I'm not sure about the others. Well, I take that back. Now, after 6 years as undergraduates, you've got some emotional intelligence coming along. Okay, no question. You grew into that a little bit. Complex social interactions. Almost every football game. Yeah, I got it. At any rate, that's what we have. We need to keep that. And here's what the any technology will do itself. So the systems do all this. So this is good. It's a great marriage if you can do that. So I want you to look at Recursion here. Recursion decided what they want to do. They're in drug discovery. And what they want to do is come through with this human AI workflow. And the idea here is drug discovery takes years, 10 to 12 years for every drug, 1 billion to 10 billion to develop it. Most of them get rejected because they don't work very well. So this is what Recursion does. They turn their AI loose, and what it does, it looks at the cells, human cells, that are treated with these various drugs, compounds. Notice what it's doing. It's trying to pick out patterns that we can't see, even with a microscope. Okay. Its algorithms are running, 100 million experimental data points a week. That's today. Next year it'll be 1 billion, but look at this right now, 100 million experimental data points a week. Then there's got to be some level of summary right here because they're going to turn this data over to human biologists and chemists. Okay, what they're doing is they've got the scientific expertise. By the way, so does the system. Don't want to forget that. But they'll do the hypothesis generation and the contextual understanding. So what they do, they design these experiments and interpret the results. Okay, so they make the final decisions on drug candidates. Well, if you take this group here, these 3 points, and what are they doing here? This is a virtuous cycle. Okay, you got the basics up here, the basic data. It feeds into what the humans are doing, and what the humans are doing feeds back into the data. So they're just cycling through it right here. They've had some very interesting results. They've got this reimagined drug discovery. Notice what it's done. They've got one of the world's largest biological data sets, 15 petabytes of proprietary data of the impact of various compounds on cells. They've noticed the timeline's gone from years to months. Okay, now what they've done, they've included as a public service rare genetic diseases because if you have an N of 1 or 10 or 100, pharmaceutical companies don't pay much attention to it. Okay, so they've gone ahead and included that. And some of their drug discoveries have already gone to clinical trials. Now, this is in a span of months. That's really outstanding. Okay, so what they did, they tried to get the humans and the AI to leverage their unique capabilities. You got the creativity on the human side, and the AI handles the computational task. Okay. I don't suppose that they're telling the scientists that they're training the machine learning models as they go along. but that's really helping all of us. Now, you do have AI native startups coming up where they're trying to reimagine all the entire structure, very lean teams, not too many people, and they want to scale their operations without traditional overhead. Well, we're early days on that. At the moment, what we're seeing in the news is everybody's just firing everybody, and panic is struck. So this is fortunately, it's going to take a while to work through that, but I haven't seen any truly AI native startups yet. But what you're going to get with these new structures is more emphasis on basic machine learning knowledges for professionals and analysts. So notice this. AI doesn't work like traditional software. It works more like a human. So there's no reason to think the IT department are going to be better prompters. Or that they have any particular insight in the most effective uses of machine learning. So you've moved it out of the IT group, and so you're still going to have the IT in the background, the tech support people, and the use case and innovation are going to come from you. And so you're going to be the ones that come up with the opportunities. So expertise from employees, and then you're going to see democratization. That's the key of generative AI. The bad news is I don't see any governance for that. Now, we could end up with project structures. You're going to have these goals, form a project team to do that goal, then move on almost like an engagement in a consulting company. Somebody's got to come up with the goals. Okay. There's a question about middle management roles. I think that's largely in the research area right now, but it'll be interesting to see how this turned out. Hare came out with their organizational remodel. Notice what they did. They broke themselves up into 4,000 self-managing smaller enterprises. Now, they're the world's largest home appliance manufacturer. Okay, so each little business of the 4,000 is separate. And the idea is that employees have ownership, decision-making rights, and a customer-paid salary. In other words, your micro enterprise either works or fails based on how the customers deal with them. Okay, so they basically want to have this open network platform of all these micro enterprises. Now, the teams form and dissolve around these market opportunities. And so they're trying to get the AI systems to get these teams integrated. And it's really interesting because if you're hunting for talent to form a team, it's very helpful to have AI to help you do that. And then you look at customer value creation rather than traditional metrics. That's pretty interesting. They're very quick to market, which has really helped. The micro enterprises of the 4,000, notice that when they find each other, they're forming temporary collaborations. That's in the project management space. And this is how they did their new air conditioner line. They were looking basically, let's see, the relevant expertise. Yeah, that's how they came up. This whole situation is how they came up with their new air conditioners. Now, the next thing we're into, other than organizational structure, is small language models. That's interesting as far as I told you about all the foundation models that you can come up with. And the more specific you get, you can literally limit the number of parameters and the volume of data because you're defining your objectives much more closely rather than openly. So, Google Gemini Nano and so forth, they're cost effective. You can put them in premise, in a private cloud. But essentially, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to get specific here so I don't have to use one of the large language models. My guess is these things will probably be done in-house. These are public, but if they get smaller and the number of parameters maybe in the 100, 200 million range, you might be able to do that in-house. I'm not sure. I've been watching to see what they developed it for. Okay, we're all stuck at the moment. If we go out to Google and you just type in a search query, what do you get? You get an AI response. You have to thumb through. You got to scroll down to get to the links. Okay. Okay, tell me about that. Is that helpful to you guys, or do you rather just get the links? They don't give you the option. You're going to get the Gemini result first.
That's what you want to do.
Hmm?
Like sometimes when you're just have a quick question, you Google like, what is the capital of this state or something like that, or country, it'll like, that's very helpful. Like if you want something really quick, but if you want to like actually learn more, like go deeper into something, like if I was trying to like research a company, I would not want the AI
In the front of it.
in front of it, because then that would basically just give me, I don't know if it's slop or where, like it'll give me links, but like say some of those are outdated or it's not what I'm looking for. Like if I'm looking for like just financial data and it's giving me news about some new product they're coming out with, or I don't know, it just depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
I'll say 50-50.
They've just crammed it on us. And I thought it's kind of interesting. We had pre-Google, then we had the search engines, now we've got the Gen AI search. And, you know, the search engines, you got keyword queries, and y'all know how they scrape the keywords off the internet to get it. So you get links, okay, which is fine. They crawl, they parse and analyze the keywords and the tags, and they index it for us. Okay, that's great. Then they rank, and y'all know search engine optimization was a big deal 10 or 20 years ago, how to get moved up on the page. You want to be, it's like a newspaper, you want to be above the fold. Well, what's search engine optimization? You want to be in the first 5 links, so people don't have to scroll. All right, so that's where we were. Well, now you've got generative AI search, and you've got, of course, all this kind of stuff. It's built in, and that's fine. You'll get all the sorts of things that you would get, only you get a little bit quicker. Instead, you're in a search engine as opposed to going to a large language model. And so you get a brief look at what a large language model is going to give you. Eventually, you'll circle around to the exact same thing. You can use natural language, but we've been able to do that forever. The search engine is trying to get intent and understanding. That's fine. And so you've got to figure out your informational, navigational, or transactional. So informational is very straightforward, just like we used to do back in the day. Navigational means, what am I going to do? It's got to take me to some place to answer my question. So there it provides information. Here it gives me navigation to the site. And then transactional, it'll actually do it for you. If you want to do, it'll run down through here and give you the information necessary to actually make a transaction. That can be useful, no question. They do the same thing: information retrieval, response generation, feedback, continuous learning. That works out. Then you've got to figure out how you're going to figure out if this is decent. And so, you know, user feedback. Remember, we had stickiness back in the day. Now it's dwell time. Click-throughs, we're all familiar with that, scroll depth, and so forth. All of this we've had forever. And it's fascinating that this works the same way with generative AI that it did previously. Used without clicking rates. Is there anything left in the market basket, and so forth. We've been there quite a while. Thumbs up, thumb down, stars, and so forth. Companies analyze all this stuff, which is very fine. But ROI, this gets difficult with a generative AI project simply because you want to wait a while, just like you do in conventional. So goal completion, that's fine. Do we have similar between generated output and high fidelity? So that's good. This is recall, actually. Task performance, how well it responds to a given prompt. These are how companies are trying to evaluate generative AI. Safety, does it handle all the things we've just talked about? Ethics, truthfulness, and so forth. And then the personality dimension, this is going into chatbot land. It's very hard to do this, actually. You can do accuracy naturally, but then perplexity, predict the next word in a sentence, mathematical algorithms to do images, precision, correct predictions, recall, and so forth. You can use that for generative AI. We also have a bunch of sophisticated stuff here. This is for machine learning translated text, machine learning translated summaries, and so forth. It's important that we look at this to see as it improves. And these are just ways to try to get a grip on generative AI. Then you can always, you can put humans in a loop to see what happens. Okay, now multimodal. This is actually getting to be fairly sophisticated. All the different modes, as you might suspect. And the key here is you can put them all together. And that gets to be kind of interesting. We don't, I'd be interested to see this. I'll tell you what, let's do this Wednesday. Let's do this Wednesday. Yeah, I'll show you the video on this multimodal. This is a little bit longer.